Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. We are on the next session about the profile ID. In our previous session, we talked about the preparation of organization, BPM governance, also business process architecture, how we can design our modeling processes by BPM, and we talk about KPI, what's the suitable KPI, and how we can design KPI, what's the dimension of KPI. And now we are in the uh, 7 part of our of 10 section in our BPM course. We want to talking about profile ID. When we talk about profile ID, we should know when we design processes, it's not enough. We need more information about processes. When we design processes, just we actually display our activity and task by image. Now we want to know how we can control the processes. As we talk about the process definition, we should answer some question about the processes. For example, how the processes work, and when we want to answer this question, we need more information. Or how we can control the processes, we need to design KPI. Or what's the relationship between the processes? We need to determine relationship between the processes. We answer lots of questions here, and the profile ID is the most important. Can gather most important information about the processes that help us to improve and also measure or control the processes. Let's dive in. First of all, we know we are in BPM lifecycle. We passed two steps. First step preparation, like BPMG. The second step was about framing and identify process architecture and designing as is process modeling actually. And now we are in measurement. The first step, we should determine the name of processes. The name of processes should be representative of any task or activity we are doing through the processes. When we call the purchasing, we know what's the result. We know totally what should I do for achieving this result. So the name of processes is very important for us. We consider about that. And we should go allocated codes for each processes. Each processes needs a unique code. You should determine a structure for your coding system. It's very important. You can see, for example, APQC or other documentation or a standard like ISO to coding your processes. It's not our topic today. In the first slide, we the right name of processes, for example, purchasing here, code, for example, KPMG dash code dash BPM dash 010101 and 00 at the end. After that, we shouldn't write some information about persons or people who are engaged or participate through the processes. The first one is creator, anyone that design processes and document processes, like process designer or process analyst. Second is confirmer, who are to confirm the processes, like process owner. And the last is approver, a person who like a process manager. This person is a level upper than confirmer. For example, confirmer can be process owner, approver can be process manager. It's related to your organizational structure. We should write name, role, organizational role actually, and sign, and here date. after that, we want to control any changes through the processes. So if we change anything through the processes, for example, we limited some activity or limit some activity through processes, or change the how we can do this activity or type of task or other information through the process diagram or profile ID, this document we write summarized here. For example, we can write, we really remove refer task from our second role, and here write the name. Here is just number 1 2 3 4, etc. Now we are diving to a specification of processes. It's very important for us to know about the purpose of processes. Purpose of process can show us that why we should do these processes. Is it a process essential for us or not? The processes is create value for us or not. We should know the purpose of processes. Also, it's better to tie between the purpose of processes and the, for example, strategic goals. We should tie between them. We should align this purpose to our object, organizational goal, or our strategic goals. Here is again the process code. Here the name and rule of process code. Write name and rule, but rule is very important for us. For example, I'm a process owner for purchasing. At the same time, organizational structure, my role is purchase expert. We should name here Ahmed Daliri and purchase expert. Purchase expert is very important for us because I'm at the moment purchase expert, and for example the next year I will be a sale expert. Horizontal change in our organization, but the rule is fixed, and forever the process owner of these processes will be purchase expert, not Ahmed Daliri. The rule here is important for us. The next is a scope. We should determine the boundary of processes. For example, some processes are common for all of organizations like leave, or other processes like mission, but some processes are specific. For example, purchase order is related to a store, and just a store is have a permission to order purchase. So we should determine the scope here by writing the rule of our organization can participate or use these processes. We write the rule of them, or name of business function, business unit here. The next is business area. We talk about business area and process group in our process architecture lessons. You can watch the process architecture lessons. Business area, we are talking about PhD process hierarchy diagram. We should write the process business area and process group here because we want to know the position of process through our PhD, and it's important for us. Also, we should determine the category of processes. Is it operational processes, core process, or is it supportive or managerial processes? You can divide it here to 3 parts. I divided to 2 parts: operational and supportive or managerial, because my reference model in this course is APQC. Probably you need to choose another reference model is related to your reference model actually, and the category can be in 3 parts: operational, supportive, and managerial, or 2 parts: operational and supportive or managerial. The next is about the stakeholder of processes. Now we want to analyze the stakeholders of these processes: internal stakeholder and external stakeholder. For example, we are talking about again purchasing process. In purchasing process, I'm a purchase expert. I need a specific and exact and complete information about the goods that I should buy it. So it's my needs. I'm a stakeholder here as a purchase expert, and we should write here our needs. Or for example, a requester, another stakeholder here is requester. What's they need, what they want to receive. They need to, for example, deliver goods as soon as possible, or the quality of goods is very important for him. So we should write here their needs. We need this information when in the next step, actually our next decision, we want to analyze the processes. We should adopt this information with our process diagram, and we should determine that does this need support by these processes or not. Can we meet this requirement by this diagram or not? If not, we should think about it, how we can meet these needs or requirement through the processes. Should should we for example, add some tasks through the processes? Should we remove some tasks? Should we change how the activity doing through the processes or not? This information so is very essential for us for the process analysis. The next is about SIPOC, supplier, input, process, output, and customer. Here we draw the P. We talk about the P of SIPOC in the next or two next slide. But when we talk about supplier and input, actually we want to determine relationship between these processes and other processes, especially end-to-end processes. Come back to the example, purchasing processes. Purchasing processes need to, for example, purchase order, another, the first process, then purchasing, and then, for example, pay or invoice. Here we should write the name of process as a supplier. You should focus that we are talking about business process management, and we want to use SIPOC for business process management. And also we should be sensitive about boundary of processes. We are talking about purchasing process, not other processes. All information we register here, we write here, should be in a boundary of these processes. Be careful about that. For example, we write here purchase order, the code of this process. What's the input? For example, can be a specific form, ordering form. For example, we should write the name of form here. Now we are determined what information is input of our processes, and in the done we should determine what's output of processes. When we talk about output the process, output of the boundary of processes, not the just end of the process, the boundary of process. For example, through the processes, middle of processes, we need to get some information from our supplier for purchasing. So we send a specific form, and also we receive the answer. When we are sending the supplier here, and the input our name of our form, anything can be right here, and we are receiving can be in output and customer. We are like a customer. So in this slide we should determine relationship between the purchasing process boundary and other processes or any external entity from boundary of processes. Pay attention about this most important point. Now here is P for the SIPOC. We determine the activity and responsible of this activity. We write here happy path of processes, not all of tasks. We know we face with some gateway through the processes, and we should determine which path should be happen. But here, just we are right about the happy path of processes. For example, register the request for goods, a responsible requester, investigate the, for example, supplier purchasing expert, or etc. And then next, we should determine some other information that we use through the processes. For example, controller. What's the controller? Anything can restrict the processes. We name controller, like procedure, like forms, like any other information or document can create a framework or restriction or boundary for our processes. Right here some procedure, approval, rules, and any other situation can affect of these processes. And we here write about the mechanism. For example, we use a specific software like SAP, like Oracle, like any other software. We should write the name of software here. Mechanism is a facilitator for our processes. And we write here which form we use through the processes and which report we should create through the processes. This information can help us, especially when we want to digitalize and go into transformation, our business to digitalization. And report can help us to know what KPI we need to determine here. Next session is about the resource management actually. Here we will talk about HR. Any lane we use in our process diagram should be displayed here. For example, purchase expert, requester manager, purchase expert manager, financial expert, any other rules that work for us actually for these processes. All of lane should be written here. Infrastructure, any other equipment we use for doing these processes. We know the human resource alone is not enough. For example, we should know some car for or computer or desk or pen, anything we want to use through the processes for doing our activity. We write here like equipment, like machinery, like some other official tools, anything. And here is about the financial budget. If we should spend money through the processes, we should write here and explain about that. For example, for purchasing, we have a specific budget for our purchasing goods in raw material, for example. We should write here, right? And after that we should respect this budget for doing more work. Step is about indicator, actually KPI. We talk about the KPI in our previous session. We should write here KPI, for example, customer satisfaction. What's the calculation formula? How we can gather data for measuring this. For example, we gather data from our database, we gather data from our notes, our Excel file, any other reference that we want to use to, we can to gather data to calculating this indicator. Here we should determine acceptance criteria, determine what's the result is acceptable for us. For example, about the customer satisfaction, we determine 90%, and we should determine boundary. For example, 90% plus negative 5%. I mean 85% to 95%, this range is acceptable for us. If our result is, for example, 80% is not acceptable, we should curious about the problem or bottleneck that it happened in our processes. Period of time, as mentioned, our previous session we talk about the period. Is it the time that we want to measure this indicator weekly, monthly, yearly, I don't know, it's related to your processes, how repetitive of processes and other information. Type of this KPI is related to efficiency or effectiveness. We are measuring resource or result. Who should be or must be measured. This KPI can be process owner or a specific person in your BPM or unit BPM office, and who want to use these indicators. When you are measuring some indicator, so some people or a specific person should use this information, should be essential, this information for at least one people in your organization. Who is it? He. We should write the role of these people here. And in this slide, we are talking about actually problems and issue. When we are interviewing with a business expert or process owner to actually designing processes, at the same time we gather some information about the processes based on his or her experience. For example, he talked about when we are investigating, when we are connecting to our supplier, we need more time because supplier don't trust us. Here is a problem. You should write here the problem. Or sometimes we need to, some activity in our processes need more time, need time more than usual. Or the process will actually waste time. We should write here, waste cost, the quality, the flexibility. What's the problem here? And write your idea here. This part again is important for us when we want to analyze the processes. We use this information again in our next step and help us to improve the processes. Just here we are writing some ideas and our thinking or some our mind about these processes. We exactly investigate, actually doing, for example, root cause analysis for these problems again. And this slide, we are talking about the process risk identification. We want to don't want to measure here, just distinguish what's the risk, or what's the difference between the risk or problems. Problems is definitely happen, but risk probably might be happen, not definitely. Be careful about that. You should write the actually the risk here. What's the risk? Can be threat or opportunity for organization. Also, what's the reason of this risk and what's consequence of this risk? And in the other side, for example, by FMEA or other technique, you should measure these risks that you identify here and determine some strategy for avoiding, for example, risk or for adopting this risk in a FMEA. For example, you can measure by RPA or other any information. And at the last, you should here put your diagram, BPD, business process diagram. Now your information are completely about the process. You can complete actually information about the processes. And anything to want to know about the processes. You have a process diagram, task, activity, role, responsibility, KPI, resource, SIPOC, relationship between the processes, stakeholder analyze, problem of processes, risk of processes. All information are here in this document. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. The next lesson we want to talk about process analysis. And we introduce some techniques, most of techniques around the processes, and and also explain how we can use some specific method for process analysis. See you in the next session.